Starship Vigilant, a Star Trek Adventures campaign.
Okay,
Yep.
So this is Starship Vigilant. This is episode 64, Envoy Part 2, and today is the 10th of January, 2024, believe it or not. And just a little bit of admin. So next potential sessions, we've got one on the 31st, after that February the 21st, and then after that March the 13th, I think. I've got no idea really when we're going to wrap everything up. We've got obviously, see how we get on tonight. We have one more scenario as part of the campaign to finish, so we are getting towards the end. So yeah, mixed feelings about that, obviously, but as I say, tonight's episode is Envoy Part 2. So I'll just remind you, I know we missed the session before Christmas, so just to remind everybody what had happened. So one of the probes that was sent out, or that has been sent out by Narendra Station, had detected gravimetric distortions from the Disathus star system located near to the Romulan neutral zone. This system had had no prior history of any such activity, and the energy patterns detected showed a connection to Tilical technology. So as a result, Vigilant was dispatched to investigate. And in your investigations, you determined that the readings that you were picking up, or the probe had picked up, had some similarities to those which had been encountered by the USS Lexington in your earlier mission that we played towards the end of last year. So the ship headed off to the Disathus star system. To get to the system, you had to pass through a dense asteroid field which surrounds the planet, and if you recall,
that was the one. That's the one where we come across the crashed ship, wasn't it? The one with
correct.
the freighter pilot.
So on your way through the so as Davis had piloted you through the asteroid field, yes, you'd come across a crashed transport vessel, and you'd basically rescued the pilot, who was an Orion, and it turned out that the Orion had been hired by a civilian mining operation to transport them to Disathus, where investigations were being carried out into the source of the signals, and basically a mining operation had been set up to investigate. And obviously the ship had meant to be going to the planet to pick the civilian miners up, when it had run into trouble in the asteroid field. So you rescued the pilot, and you then arrived at Disathus itself, having passed through the asteroid field, and you discovered that the leader of the Orion / civilian mining operation was the same Orion that you had dealt with a couple of times before, most recently on Narendra Station, when she had at one point been impersonated by a changeling, and her name was, I think, Paj Tizhenko, and again she was sort of irritated to see you, and as you were talking to her, if you remember, you had detected that there was a submarine or a submersible had been operating. Basically, the mining base was on the kind of shores of an ocean, or at least a very large lake, and a submersible was operating in towards the ruins and had got into some sort of trouble. And so you had, I believe, Kaz, you and the command crew had taken to the runabout. Now, I've got a question, and I did put the recording up, but I honestly can't remember whether you had gone with the away team or whether you had stayed on the ship. Can you remember?
Well, seeing I didn't make up a secondary character, no, I've gone with the away team.
I'm assuming you're on the shuttle or on the runabout.
I think the whole A list.
Yeah, I mean that's the kind of that's the trope, isn't it? And I think it made sense that you'd gone down, but I just couldn't remember. Now, in case anyone hasn't seen it, I've put in the chat. I put a link to the game page on the VTT. So those I can see Sarah Jane. I don't think you're in there. I can see Mike and Kerrin are.
No, I'm not.
So if you have a look back in the chat log a little bit up there, you'll see there's a link, and if you click to that should
Game
take you to
chat.
the Envoy.
Yeah, got it.
Okay. Now, important safety tip for everybody. I found out that when you don't access this VTT for more than 30 days, it wipes out all of your games. So annoyingly, some of the artwork. Well, no, it's fine. Some of the artwork, because and obviously I'd actually put together this cover image. Had already been done, and I had that saved. But yeah, I'd done some stuff which unfortunately I've lost. Although none of it's irretrievable, but I just haven't had time to put everything back together. So I don't have tokens for you this time, but I don't think that will be an issue. But just so you're aware, as I say, I'd made tokens up. I think I've got them stored somewhere, but I'll dig them out before the next session. But anyway, we've still got access to the VTT, so. So there's an image of the runabout as you are heading down towards the planet's surface. So, Captain's Log Supplemental. Whatever this group of Orion salvages is up to, it's all gone sour. Despite their reputation, I can't really call what they're doing piracy, as their leader has a point. This is free space, and the Dysathus system is unclaimed by any interstellar political entity. We have no real jurisdiction here, but the situation on Dysathus now demands that we offer any assistance we can. Transporters are undependable due to the gravimetric distortions we're picking up, so I'm dispatching an away team to the planet's surface in the runabout. So you leave the Vigilant behind, and Mike's dropped out. Okay. I'll give him a second. I don't know what's happened there. I hope he's not going to have. I hope he's not having technical issues again. It would be handy if he was around, only because he can. He's like the pilot, isn't he?
Yes.
Kaz has actually got piloting skill, which might be very useful in a moment. So we'll give him a second. Yeah. Can you believe it? It's bad luck, isn't it? We've lost both pilots. That's not good. So. Yeah. Okay. Say again.
I said I'll have a stab if necessary.
I'll have a stab at it. Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that'll be very reassuring as the ship plummets towards the planet's surface. That's great. Okay. Well, yeah. All right. Well, basically, as seems to be as you've become quite accustomed to, all this electromagnetic stuff going on does cause atmospheric problems, and basically the shuttle is struggling. The runabout is struggling slightly as it heads towards the planet's surface. So what we're going to do is we are going to get I'll tell you what, I can actually I'll just roll for Kaz, because I can bring up Kaz's character sheet, or actually I'll roll for Davis. In fact, let's do that. So Alex will be with us in spirit. That seems fair enough, doesn't it? So
it does. He said thank you very much, by the way. I passed on to him what he said.
No, it's no problem at all. Let me just find my mic mobile. Bump just froze up, going to reboot. Well, there's a shocker. Okay. I don't suppose Santa brought him a new laptop, apparently.
I don't suppose he was a good boy.
Well, yeah, I'm glad you said that, but yeah, yeah, I think you could very well be right. I'll ask him later. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring up Davis's character sheet. So just to remind you, if you do need character sheets, you can go to the Vigilant homepage, and again the link should be further up in the chat there. But I'll open up Davis's character sheet. Okay, so ship is the shuttle is heading towards the surface, and all of you are having to grab hold of. I mean, you'll be seated, but the ship is getting thrown about quite badly. Now, fortunately, you're not in one of the normal shuttles. You're in the runabout, which is a bit more robust, perhaps. So I'm going to get him to make a roll for piloting. So he has got a control of 10 and a con of 4. So his target number is going to be a 14. So let's have a look. We do a... Okay, so he's got one success there. Now let me just check. Has he got? He hasn't got any focus. He has got focuses, but focuses are not really going to assist him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to have Kaz assist him. So because he's made one success, then obviously somebody else can make a roll to try and assist. So Kaz has a control and con of 15. So she gets to roll 1 dice. Oh, and well, brilliant.
I've got
so
a focus
Kaz,
on small craft.
Kaz is actually,
So that won't
Kaz has
help.
got small craft pilot as well. So that 3 means that she's rolled a under a focus, so she gets 2 successes. So between the pair of them, so basically Davis is fighting the controls, and despite his skill, he's still fairly inexperienced. So Kaz is in the co-pilot seat and assists, and basically between them they managed to get 3 successes, which means that they managed to get the ship back on an even keel, and so your descent becomes definitely smoother than it was momentarily. And so you begin to descend towards the planet's surface, and as you can see from the image, the planet's surface is a distinct rusty color, and the sky is similarly quite red and stormy. You know already that the atmosphere and so on is breathable, but this is definitely not a particularly a pleasant place to be spending a lot of time. Okay, so you've managed to get the ship under control, or at least Kaz and Davis have got the ship under control. So as you're coming down, so is there anything you'd like to do in the meantime as you approach the site of the mining operation and the submarine that's in trouble? Obviously,
have we made contact in any way? The mining
yeah.
operation.
So if I remember rightly, and I will fully admit I didn't 100% go back and listen to the whole thing last time, but yeah, basically you'd made contact with them, and as Kaz indicated in her captain's log, the situation you're in is that they're not technically breaking any rules here. This planet is not claimed, and technically they are free to operate here. Obviously, the fact that you've now realised that Captain Tizhenko is in charge, and also the fact that she's an Orion, and obviously they have a reputation. And that she has operated as a pirate. What you would call a pirate, privateer, smuggler, probably. May give you cause to be suspicious, and I'm sure Koleesh probably her first reaction would probably be to shoot her with a disruptor, but obviously she's trying to change her ways somewhat. Orions generally are not considered to be too trustworthy, but again, they're not actually doing anything technically wrong here. So yes, was there anything you wanted to get from that communication though that I haven't covered?
I was just wondering how they our approach, and if we were in communication, are they sort of
okay?
Do the miners seem standoffish? Do they welcoming our approach? Are they?
So you've only had communication with Tizhenko.
Yep.
However, she seems to be reluctantly. Obviously, your rescued Orion pilot was on the bridge when you made contact. So firstly, Tizhenko knows that the Vigilant has rescued her. I mean, the pilot was. I think we'd established was an independent, so it wasn't part of her crew, her team necessarily, but obviously was part of her operation. And you've obviously rescued her pilot.
Yep.
Of course, there is also the fact that certainly at the moment they're kind of stranded here because the Orion was meant to be going back to the planet and would be going back to pick up to pick up the mining crew once they'd finished their operation. So there's obviously an element of that to her thinking that she doesn't want to be too dismissive of you. But naturally, you got the impression that she certainly, again, Koleesh, with her security instincts, you'd certainly got the impression that she wasn't best pleased to have Starfleet sniffing around again. Similarly for her, that they are technically doing nothing wrong being here, and because it's unclaimed territory, again, a Starfleet vessel has every right to be here. And so I think it's fair to say she also recognises that they need assistance because their crew on the submersible are in danger. So yeah, I think it's fair to say she's kind of grudgingly glad to see you. How that translates to trust moving forward is another question, but that's kind of the impression you got. As I say, she's not particularly thrilled that you're here, but she'd probably rather it was you lot, or you guys, than a Romulan warbird or something. So we'll see how it develops. I still can't see Mike back online, so I don't quite know what's going on with him. But that's okay. Let me just send him a quick message before I move on. Okay, right. So okay, as you descend down through the atmosphere, then what we'll do is we'll assume Osterhagen's with you. Again, I know Kevin's not here tonight, but we'll assume Osterhagen's with you as well. So Osterhagen is going to try and reconfigure the ship's sensors to see whether you can get any more information specifically about what's going on with the submersible. So he's got a reason and science is 11:15.
Do we know at this point what's actually wrong with it?
All you know is that the submersible has sent out a distress signal. That sounds like that might be Mike. Are you back? He's back in. He's back in Discord. But Mike, if you can hear me, there you go. Can you hear me now?
I can hear you, but I can't. As I say, it's just I don't know what's happened. It's just died on me.
Okay, well that's fine. We'll carry on. That's fine. Right. So you've between you and Davis, you've managed to steady the shuttle's approach.
Well done, Mike.
And Osterhagen. Yeah, well done, Mike. Osterhagen is just scanning to see what's going on the surface. You're trying to decide whether you can get any more information about the situation that the submersible is in. So I'm gonna. Okay, that's 2 successes. That's fine. Okay, so. Right. Okay. So, you, Kaz. Now that Davis has got the shuttle under control, like I say, you've now got lower into the atmosphere, so things are a bit less choppy, and so he's bringing the runabout down towards the.
So sorry, can I just catch up where we are? Have we gone after that submersible?
Well, you're heading towards the location of the submersible, which is in the ocean, which is in the lake next to the mine where the mining operation is.
Yeah, so we've hit choppy weathers basically.
Yeah,
is that what you were rolling for?
Yeah, correct.
Right.
So Osterhagen's reconfiguration of the sensors means that he now has got a better idea of what's going on. So the rest of you all sort of cluster around the sensor display while Davis flies the shuttle in, and you can see the submersible is near. Is in this again? I'm going to call it a lake. I'm sure it was described as a large. It's not an ocean. It's a very large lake. Lake Michigan type.
Yeah, like one of the Great Lakes sort of thing.
Kind of exactly. And the submersible is near to the underwater structure, which you'd been advised of, which is apparently the source of the gravimetric distortions, which is underground. This is why the miners have basically been called here. Is the miners have been called to excavate. They're trying to excavate this site, presumably to find out if there's anything of value. And so the submersible is in the water near the location of this underground structure. Your sensors are able to determine that there are 4 humanoid life forms on board. and as far as you can tell, they are Orions as well, which makes sense given that, as far as you know, all the members of this mining contingent are Orions. And it seems that they were attempting to drill a path to this underground structure, but it appears that the ship has suffered a hull breach and has begun taking on water.
Can we beam them out?
Okay, so that's the first question: is can you beam them out? So we've established that transporters are unreliable. However, if Giara wants to have a go, I'm not against you trying it. I won't penalise you unless you score.
Can I make a
Let me just finish what I was going to say.
Okay.
So you can make an attempt.
Okay.
And so if you fail, it just means you can't get a lock on them. If, however, you score a complication, which is basically a 20, so if you roll a 20, then there is a chance that one of them you may actually partially lock onto one, and then you might have to, if there might be a couple of attempts there to try and retrieve them. So there's a bit of risk involved. But
I'm
again,
thinking of the transporter accident in Galaxy Quest.
Exactly, exactly right.
Can I make
it may not be that severe, but it's along those lines. But it's a calculated risk, because they are obviously, this submarine is taking on water, which is obviously not good. So yes, Mike, what were you going to say?
Right. Have we got a good transporter lock on the submarine itself?
Well, that's what we're going to try and establish.
Right. Because what I was going to suggest is, could we beam pattern enhancers down around the submarine and use those to boost the signal?
Oh my god!
No, because the submarine's in open water. So if you beam pattern enhancers down, they're just going to drop to the bottom of the lake. So no, it's a good idea, but that's not going to help you.
I thought it was on the seabed, on the lake bed. So
no, it's underwater, kind of floating there, trying to. I'm assuming it's got some sort of laser cutting beam or something. But
yeah.
Okay, so Giara, you can
I do have a focus for transporters and replicators.
We do. Now, this is going to be a difficulty 4, which is really difficult.
Okay.
Now, you don't have any momentum at the moment, because none of the tasks that you've all attempted, you've succeeded, but you haven't made any momentum.
No, that's fine.
You can give me some threat if you want to take more dice, or you can. I don't know if anyone else has got Osterhagen, I think, has got. What has he got? Anything transportery? No, he hasn't. But to be honest, it's gonna be right. So transporters, it's going to be basically, it's going to be probably reason and engineering for you to try and transport them out.
Okay. What do you want me to roll? 1d20 or 2?
No, you get 2d20 as normal. You've got a focus, which means that the way the focuses work, just to remind everybody, is that if you get under I think your engineering is 4. Is that right?
Let me double check for you. Engineering is 5.
Fine. So engineering, if any of your d20s roll under a 5, that counts as 2 successes.
Okay.
But to be honest with you, it's going to be difficult to achieve this, because you'd have to get 4 successes. So I'm going to allow you to get somebody to.
Excuse me. I've just rolled a d12 by accident because I coughed at
That's right. No, don't.
time. Click the button. Okay.
And if you remember, if you just click on them, yeah, and then click on them again. That's good. That's 1. That's 2. Oh, excellent. So you have scored 3 successes.
Oh.
Okay, which is quite amazing, frankly. Now I'm going to allow one of the other 2. If one of you guys wants to try and assist, because everybody's cross-trained in equipment, so you only need to score 1 success. So I don't know if you guys want to look at your. I don't know if either of you have got anything.
Can we use the runabout's computer as well to give us a bonus?
Yeah. Okay. No, that's fine. That's legit. So let's see what the runabout can offer you. So let me just go to the runabouts.
All I was going to say is if Kerrin adds a roll, because I can't, as I say, I can't get to my dice roll at the moment, so it's probably better.
It's all right.
Well,
I
yeah,
can
I
do
haven't
it.
really got anything that's relevant. Looking at my.
Let's have a look. Okay, so the runabout can use. I'm going to say it's going to be probably computers and engineering. So that's going to be. It's got a total of 9 in computers and engineering. So not a great chance, but we'll give it a go. Basically, because you've succeeded, Sarah Jane, with 3. That's really good. So.
Do we want to? Can we add?
Oh
dear.
That's okay.
Yeah.
That's the runabout's role, but that's not going to count as a. So all that means is that you burn out the transporter circuit burns out. If you'd rolled a 20, I would have pushed it down the, down the route of it being as you say, a Galaxy Quest / Star Trek the Motion Picture transporter accident. But in this case, all it means is you struggle with the computer with the transporters. You get a lock on them. You're kind of, doing the whole thing on the console with moving the sliders up and down and kind of trying to boot, but you just cannot get a fix on them. And the runabout computers basically burn out, or at least the transporter controls burn out. So all that means is that you just can't beam them out. But to be honest, it was a very, very long shot anyway. So don't feel bad. You made it. That was about as good an attempt as you could possibly do.
You gave it a go.
Gave it a good go. So, has anyone got any other ideas? So you're still approaching the location. Anyone else got any other ideas what you could potentially do to get the submarine out of there?
Is the runabout? I think we're going to say the same thing. Has the runabout got a tractor beam?
Yeah.
It does have a tractor beam. Yes.
Lock on target.
Okay, so this is going to be a control and security task. Now, if I look at, I think, so Davis has got, so I think Koleesh should take the lead on this one because your security skill is the best out of everybody.
Yeah, got 4 for security.
It's fair to say.
I've got security of 1.
And the runabout can assist you with this. So what basically this is a difficulty 3, so this is much more achievable. And I would suggest you do you have your go first, Koleesh, and then one of the others can assist you because again, as long as you get 1 success, somebody else can help, and also the ship will help as well. So so that'll be, as I say, if you want to make a control and security. I don't know whether you've got any focuses that would be applicable. I don't think you've got a tractor beam focus or anything, but
I didn't roll below 4 anyway, so
wouldn't it be small crafts?
I got a 6, which is a success, and a 20, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay, well that's fine. So 6 is a success. Okay, so we'll come back to the 20 in a minute. So okay, so we're going to get the runabout to roll as well. So the runabout does not roll well. It doesn't cause any problems, but it doesn't roll well enough to assist you. So right, Kaz, why don't you have a go? Because as long as because Koleesh got 1 success, then you are able to try and assist.
I've got small craft systems as well, I think.
Okay, so you've got small craft pilot. I mean, I'll slightly swerve that one. That seems fair. So control and security. If you could ideally roll very low, that would be really good.
Hang on a minute. I can roll and tell you, but I can't actually roll on screen.
Oh, okay. I'll do it then. You just need 1 dice. I'm going to roll 1 dice for you.
Okay.
So you got a 13. Okay. So you scored a success. So that means you've now got a total of 2 successes. Now, I'm happy to let you. So let's have a look and see what that does. So okay. So what happens is you've not quite managed to succeed it, but basically you managed to get the tractor beam has locked onto the submersible. Oh, actually, I think I did. Did I get a picture? Yeah, I did. Hold on a sec. Oh, there you go. Have you? Hopefully that image has changed. So I googled a nice image of a cool looking submersible. So okay.
Nice.
So you've managed to get a tractor beam lock on the submersible, but you're struggling because you didn't get the 3 successes. And again, you're now within. You're now sort of hovering over the mining site. Tractor beam is locked on. So you're gonna have another shot. You're gonna have another round to try and get this thing out there. And your plan with the tractor beam will be presumably to lift this thing out of the water and just dump it onto the shoreline. Obviously, your tractor beams are capable of handling very large amounts of mass. And this submarine is only designed for 4 people. So although that image looks like it looks quite big, but it's basically I don't know. It's about this. It's about the same size as the runabout with another few meters tacked on the end. So it's about sort of 20-25 meters long. So it's not a huge vessel. And like I say, you've managed to get your tractor beam locked on, but the downside is going to get more difficult because obviously the submersible is taking on more water as it's leaking. So we'll give you another go to try and pull it out, and then you may have to think of something else if that doesn't work. Okay.
Steve,
So Koleesh, if you
sorry, mate.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
Are spacesuits, do they double up as dive suits?
Should do.
Yeah, I mean they certainly would be. I mean, if you believe J.J. Abrams, then yeah, yeah, 100%. I mean, they're environment suits, so they're not. They're designed to protect. Yeah, so I think I've got no problem with that at all. Yeah, they will definitely function as dive suits if needed. So absolutely.
Yeah, if needed.
Right. So, Koleesh, do you want to have another go then? So again, it's a control and security role.
Yeah.
So let's see how you get on first of all, and then we'll see where we go from there.
Oh, much better.
That's much better. Okay. So you've met. That's to be fair. I'm going to get the ship to assist you. No, it's still the vigilance. The runabout's really not helping you. Right, Kaz, do you want to have a go as well?
Yeah.
Just roll 1 dice. Remember.
Well, yeah.
And
What did I roll?
Okay, that did not succeed. However,
Well, gee, there's a success.
no, that's fine. You got 2 successes, so that's enough to. So you managed to pull the submarine. You've managed to stabilize your lock, and you managed to lift the. So basically, the submersible. You lift it out of the water. So on the view screen, you're lifting this thing out, and you kind of unceremoniously dump it onto the shoreline. As it's resting on the shoreline, you can see water sort of pouring out of a hull breach.
Yeah.
But obviously the water's draining out, which is good. And as you watch, you see like the hatch up the top here. The hatch at the top kind of opens, and you again on your viewers, you can see these Orions kind of pull themselves out of the submersible. And you can see all 4 of them come out. So you've managed to save all 4 of the crew members, and the submersible is now kind of dumped on the shoreline. Okay. So I'm assuming that you are you going to put the runabout down, or what do you want to do, Kaz?
We'll land next to it. I'll land the thing next to it. Because again, if nothing else, we can check the crew out, make sure they haven't taken any injuries or.
Okay, so this is an image of the what the Orions have got. So again, this is like an AI piece, but again, just to give you an idea, fits in with the theme of the planet being sort of that kind of reddy color, red skies, and you see the ocean there. You see the big lake behind it, and they've got equipment all set up on this. So you can land the runabout. Sort of in their perimeter. Now I'm going to get as you come in for a landing, Davis manages to sort of bring the runabout down, and it you kind of brings it down to a gentle landing. Now as you're coming in for the approach, suddenly there's a violent shaking of the ship, and your Osterhagen sensors report that the gravimetric readings are going through the roof. Something is obviously happening, and as you're watching, the structure that was below the surface begins to break through the. It seems to be rising up from the water, so the lake is boiling, and you can see this structure beginning to rise. And as you watch, amazingly, it's turned into ice now. Don't worry about that. But basically, as you watch, a huge pyramidal structure breaks up through the surface of the lake and kind of settles down. And as it ceases to rise, so Davis has been fighting with the controls, but as this structure comes to the surface, the gravimetric readings begin to dissipate. You can feel that the shuttle begins to settle. Again, and Osterhagen and any of the rest of you who are looking at sensor readouts can see that these gravimetric distortions are almost essentially gone. And as you look on your out of the window of the runabout, you can see the water sort of lapping around the edges of this structure, and everything seems to be settling down again as it settles on the surface. Now,
sorry, Steve. Is it sitting on the surface? Is it floating?
Yeah, it's kind of, if you imagine, it's literally come up through the it's basically resting on the surface, so it's not floating above. It's literally, as the image shows you there, it is literally it seems as if there is ground, like a solid surface beneath it, if that makes sense. So yes, I see what you mean. It's not floating like a boat. It's as if the whole bedrock of the lake has sort of risen up and raised this thing up out of the water.
Does the angles of the pyramid, because it's a pyramid, yeah?
Yeah, it looks vaguely like that image. I mean, that's again, these images are only meant to suggest, give you some idea of what these things look like. But yeah, it looks like a pyramid. It's recognizably, it's pyramidal. Right.
So you say it's sitting on the bedrock? Does the bedrock continue down in a pyramidal shape, or does it?
You just can see that it's literally, it's almost like the bottom of the lake has kind of raised up and lifted this thing up out of the water. That makes sense?
Yeah. Okay.
So literally, there's no hole underneath it.
Did you mention a size? How many stories is this?
It's quite big. It is, it's described as being immense. So I'm going to say it's definitely kind of Great Pyramid of Giza type size. It is pretty huge.
Okay.
And
annoyingly, the scenario doesn't. Say again.
Oh, sorry. I was just going to ask, from looking at it, is it recognisably Orion in some way, or is it something just strange that we've never seen
Sarah
before?
Jane, I'm very glad you asked me that question. That's a very useful question at this juncture. So all of you, so obviously there is a moment where all of this has gone on. So you've had this horrendous landing experience where the like I say, the gravimetric distortions had got to a point where it was causing the shuttle to rock about. And from what you could see of what was going on the surface, again, the mining settlement was being disrupted as well. And obviously now that's all calmed down, and you're taking a moment. So Davis is kind of bringing the shuttle. Now that he's steadied the shuttle, he brings the shuttle down to land, and you have a few moments. To look at this structure again. You're trying to make sense of it, and again, it is definitely pyramidal in shape. It does have various protrusions coming out of it, on various points of its surface. So it's not smooth, it's not uniform. So although it is pyramidal in shape, there are bits, for the want of a better word, there are pieces of it kind of sticking out. There seems to be some sort of a like a flared area at the top of the structure as well. And Osterhagen sensors, he obviously runs a sensor scan on it as soon as he sees it. Now, Giara, one of your previous hosts, I'm going to rule, was an archaeologist. But I don't think we've ever really established. I think we established one of your hosts before. But good thing about Trill characters is we can throw in a handy background when needed, right?
Yeah, this host has memory problems, so Giara is a bit stuck at the moment.
That's okay. So what I want you to do is, can I get Giara to make a so Osterhagen is muttering under his breath as he's scanning this thing, and again the rest of you are kind of peering out of the front windows of the runabout, because it's a very impressive sight. So Osterhagen is sort of muttering to himself, but I'd like Giara to make a. Let me see. I'm going to go with insight.
Yep. That's
And
10.
science roll. So that's a 13
That's
is your
13.
target number.
So I have to
So if you roll
roll below
2d20
13.
and see how you get on with that.
So we've got 15.
That's okay. That's okay.
And yay! No.
And a complication. Okay.
I love the lightning strike that comes out with it.
Me too. It's good because of course the thing is in D&D, of course, that's a good thing. Having a 20
Yeah.
is meant to be but of course in this game it's a bad thing. So,
And
but
lightning
anyway,
strike.
don't worry. It's nothing serious for you. It just means that you have a kind of a niggling feeling in the back of your brain somewhere that you recognize this structure, or at least it seems familiar to you. And again, given that you're a joined trill and one of your hosts was something archaeology in the past,
Yeah, I can't really remember. I've seen
you
something
kind of
like
think,
this
oh
before.
yeah, you're
but
struggling to remember. But Osterhagen,
something important, but I can't.
Yeah, exactly. And you're kind of going, I don't recognise. So Osterhagen has rolled. He's rolling on. He's tweaking his sensors, and he comes over to you, Cat. He says, "Captain, I think this structure is Iconian."
Sugar.
Anyone? I don't suppose apart from Mike, does anyone know?
I know who
the
Iconians
are?
Not a good idea. Not good.
I've heard
Not
the name.
Good at all. Okay. Iconians are. I can't even say them. Iconians are a very ancient race, and they dominated a very big portion of the galaxy. Basically, they created dimensional doorways.
Yeah.
So they could basically appear anywhere, and they eventually. There was a couple of episodes from TNG where they turned. I think they had one, wasn't there? It was one where they.
Yeah, so the one with the USS Yamato, wasn't it?
Yeah, but I thought there was another one after that.
Yeah, I think there is another one. Let me just read you. I'll read you the library data. So this is the information that Osterhagen summarised. So all of you will have heard the name Iconian, even if it's just from basic training at Starfleet, where you will have had some historical knowledge. So the theory or the common knowledge is that more than 200,000 years ago, aliens known as the Iconians created a series of gateways that allowed them to see or travel anywhere in the galaxy. The Federation has previously discovered 2 working Iconian gateways. One was on the dead world of Iconia itself, and another was on Vandross 4 in the Gamma Quadrant, so through the wormhole.
Is that the one the Yamato scanned? It scanned.
That was the one that was in. That was Iconia, I believe.
Yeah, and picked up a computer virus that basically caused the ship to explode.
Until the discovery of the first gateway, the Iconians were believed to be. So the first gateway was discovered, I think, in season 2 of TNG, which would have been about 6 or 7 years ago, from 5 or 6 years ago, in your current timeline. So you're in 2372. I think it was 23765 that the Iconian gateway was discovered. So this is something that you know about. It's not a mystery. It's not a secret. It was discovered. And prior to the discovery of that first gateway, the Iconians were mostly believed to be mythical, called demons of air and darkness in various ancient legends. But the Federation now knows that the Iconians used their gateways to build a vast interstellar empire. The two gateways discovered so far were both very different in design, but identical in function, and each of them can create a field that serves as a window or doorway to another location. And basically, if you pass through the doorway, then you will appear on the other side in wherever this, wherever the destination is. In its default configuration, the gateway would rapidly cycle through a series of different destinations. But the operator can tune it to any location within the galaxy, or it's assumed that the Iconians could point it at any location. And it essentially gave them instantaneous instantaneous transport throughout the galaxy. As a possible security feature, the gateway on Vandross 4 was located in a pyramid made of neutronium. Neutronium is like one of the densest materials known to science.
It's what the Doomsday Machine was sheathed in.
Yeah. So it's very, very tough material. And so that second gateway that was discovered was protected from any known form of orbital attack. And also the gateway that gateway also generated a dampening field that prevented the use of energy weapons in or near the pyramid. So the reason, Sarah Jane, that you see this as familiar is because, again, your archaeological prior host was familiar with the myths and legends of the Iconians, and this pyramid certainly seems to fit the general parameters of what you've found. Now,
at this point, I'll slap my head and say, "Oh yes, that's what it is. I remember now."
It's Iconian. And Osterhagen's like, "I told you that." So both gateways were actually destroyed to prevent them from falling into enemy hands, because obviously this kind of technology represents a major security threat, because the gateway that the Enterprise encountered, literally could take you anywhere. You could walk into Starfleet headquarters. You could walk into, anywhere that you could basically go anywhere in the galaxy instantaneously.
Didn't they? I think there was sort of like an Easter egg where they was flipping through, and one of them was sort of like the Romulan High Council or something like that.
Yeah, exactly right.
And it was like zipping through a load of different locations. So you could literally, as I say, your most secure secret base, you could literally just walk straight into it.
Yeah, and basically the second gateway was also destroyed before due to the situation it was discovered in. The second gateway was also just destroyed. But Federation researchers have been keen to locate a third functional gateway, since it could lead, if nothing else, it's likely to provide greater insight into transport technology. Potentially introducing the idea of interstellar transport, so that you could transport from, between galaxies, or certainly between planets. Whereas at the moment, transports only operate between, orbit and the surface of a planet. However, it's also known that the presence of a single functional gateway is an important opportunity for the Federation, but could also be a grave danger if it falls into the hands of a hostile species. So the fact that this structure appears to be Iconian is a fairly major issue. Now, you also know the age of the Iconian civilization, as I mentioned, is considered to be about 200,000 years, give or take, and this also fits into the same time period of the Tilikal. So certainly many of the Tilikal artifacts and structures that you've discovered are of a similar age. So is it coincidence that the Iconians and the Tilikal were around at the same time, or is there some other explanation for it? But the point is that Kaz, your focus now is very much on finding out what you can about this structure, and obviously preventing, if possible, Iconian technology from falling into the hands of unscrupulous individuals.
Is the ship still in range, or is it still? Where was the ship when we last?
Well, the Vigilant's in orbit, and you do have communication with them, although it is spotty because, again, gravimetrics and all that stuff. But yeah, the ship is in orbit. Obviously, you brought the runabout down because you didn't want to risk bringing the ship down, and the transporters weren't working. So
yeah, okay. Well, who do we leave in command of the ship? Is Koleesh down on the planet? She is.
Koleesh is with you. Yeah. So all of our major characters are with you. So
right.
I mean, you can. Let's have a look. Who would you have left in command? Probably. Who can we lumber? Let's have a look.
Jenkins.
Which of that? What was that? Jenkins. Oh, I reckon Jenkins is probably in command.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Yeah,
I think last time we said that it would probably be Plume, wouldn't it?
Yeah, because Plume's technically the next next most senior. But I mean, it's up to you. I mean, you probably would have left someone like. Technically Plume is senior. Whether he would want to take on the job, I don't know. You could certainly have left in command. Your next likely candidate is probably Katie West, who's the chief. She's the new sort of chief con officer. So she's probably. And I say, she's been left in command, but she's, you just told her to stay in orbit.
Look after
and
the store.
Don't break anything, effectively.
Okay.
She's got the command manual on her lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Do not fire photon torpedoes at Klingons. It annoys them. Okay. So I'm going to contact her and tell her to get a message off to Starfleet.
Okay.
Informing them what we found, our suspicions as to what we found.
Okay. Now, interestingly, you suspect. So, as far as you all know, it's unlikely that the Orions will recognise this for what it is.
Yeah.
Because obviously security was very tight around once the Iconian Gateway was discovered several years ago, and it became apparent that they were a real thing. Obviously, security around discovery of any of their technology has become very tight indeed. So, at the moment, you would you don't think that the Orions would have any reason to think. I mean, obviously they've come here looking for this structure, or they're investigating this structure, but again, they probably don't know anything about the Tilikal any more than is publicly known, which is probably not a lot. And they certainly would not recognise this as being Iconian unless they have any, archaeologists in their crew, which is unlikely, given that they're a commercial mining operation.
Yeah.
You're looking at it for the value of the neutronium.
Neutronium is it's a good question. Because neutronium is just basically it's a very dense.
Is the pyramid made of neutronium? I know you said the.
Well, you put it this way: Osterhagen's scans aren't able to penetrate it, so chances are it has probably at least got neutronium in it, if it's not entirely neutronium. Neutronium is something that I think is mined. Did they say it comes out of the core of a star or something? I can't remember what the bullshit. I'm sure there's a pseudoscience thing about neutronium.
It's a very rare and.
It's a very rare metal, and it is again very hard to work with because it's you can shoot phasers at it and it kind of laughs at you. Let me see if I Google neutronium, let me see what it tells me. Conjectured form of matter made up of neutrons with no protons or electrons. The strength of neutronium would be incredibly high as the strong nucleus. So basically, it's just a very dense metal, and the only structures that you've encountered with neutronium in them are the Doomsday Machine. For those of you familiar with the original series episodes,
don't forget you guys have encountered the Doomsday Machine as well.
Yeah. So anyway, it's basically very tough. So as to how much it would be worth, it's a good question. Again, the Orions will probably be, yes, it probably is worth quite a bunch. It's very hard to work with. So whether they'd be able to cut bits of it off and take it away is a whole nother question. But
would you mind for a start? Yeah.
But the point is, as I say, that they probably don't recognise this for being an Iconian structure, which is probably a good thing.
Mm-hmm. Is there any glyphs or anything on the outside of the structure?
Well, you need to get closer to it. Don't forget you're still in your runabout at the moment. Okay. The surface. This thing is, a huge pyramid, so you can't really tell from here. One other thing to mention, as I sort of touched on, this structure seems to be. It seems to be inert now that the structure has risen to the surface. The gravimetric fluctuations seem to have completely dissipated, and Osterhagen, says, as a matter of interest, it's totally safe to move around outside. You can go outside without any problem. He's also identified what seems to be an entrance to the structure, but as the shuttle lands. There are a group of Orions heading to the shuttle, or heading to the runabout to meet you. So,
yes.
Cool. Okay. So, over to you as to how you want to handle that then.
Right. So, as I say, so the survivors from the submarine are still. Basically, we dropped the submarine. Well, didn't drop it, but we placed the submarine on the beach, and they were able to get out of it that way. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you basically dumped the submarine on the beach. The guys have come out, yeah, and obviously, some of the miners are going to help their colleagues. And as I say, you can see there's a group of the Orions coming to meet you as well.
Okay. Well, I'll go out to meet one of them. I'll go out to meet the party.
Okay. All right. Okay. Right. So as you so you've landed the shuttle. So what the rest of you going to do? I take it Koleesh will probably go with Kaz, because obviously being security officer, you probably want to keep an eye on her if at all possible.
Definitely. Well, it's not so much Kaz I need to be keeping an eye on, but yes, I will.
Yeah. It's a fair point.
I think Giara,
Koleesh,
she's generally just
is the first
interested.
officer now. Koleesh is the first officer now, isn't she?
She is, yeah.
Yeah, that's right. That's fine. No, I just wanted to refresh my memory.
Right. So as you so you what about the rest of you? So Giara, what do you want to do? Do you want to stay on the ship, or are you going to come out as well?
No, Giara's going to go because she's interested in it.
Have we got a medic on board, by the way? Did we bring a doctor?
Well, I mean, it's up to you. If you tell me you've got a medic, you've got a medic.
Yes, we have. Because I say, I'll bring the medic out, and whoever it is, I mean.
Well, let's go with. I'm going to go with. I'm a big fan of Tala. So Tala is the if you remember, is the Andorian hockey player from our previous.
As I say, we sort of like we'll go out and that's why it's buggering around. Sorry. Basically go out and run. I sort of like say to Tala, go out and just give the crew of the submersible a once over, see what you can find out. Okay,
so you come out of the runabout. This group of Orions coming towards you. She makes the head for the submersible, and a couple of Orions break off from the group coming towards you and essentially block her path, looking pretty threatening. But then you see Tazhenko, who's the female Orion that you've dealt with before. She sort of comes to the front of the group and says, "Let her pass. Can't you tell from her uniform she's a medic or something?" And they sort of reluctantly step aside, and she heads off to go and check the guys out. And she approaches you and says, "Oh, I assume you're the." He says, "I take it you're the captain now." Says to you, Kaz.
Yes, I am. It's nice to see you as well, John.
Well, John. I hope you. It says before. I just hope you don't get any ideas about laying claim to this structure. We were here first. We've discovered this, and whatever comes of this, I just want you to recognise that this is a non-aligned planet, and we were here first. And any technologies or any salvage that we can retrieve from this structure, legally it belongs to us. And some of her Orion crew sort of grumble unhappily and kind of wielding various tools and things menacingly as she's speaking to you. And she has a point. Again, you have at this point you have no legal right to. They were here first. They've discovered disruption. Now, yes, you've helped them with the submersible, but there's nothing to indicate that your actions caused this structure to rise. It may very well have been the drilling by the submarine. So, again, it's up to you how you handle it, but just want you to bear that in mind. So, you're not on a Federation planet. You're not in Federation's territory here.
It's a possible.
So just be aware.
Yeah, but the point is, it's a possible threat to the Federation.
Okay.
Especially
you going to tell her that? Or
no, I'm not.
Are you going to tell her that? Or?
I'm not. I'll just sort of like nod, sort of like casually nodding as if I'm nodding in agreement, but sort of like I realise we've got other concerns as well, because if that represents what I think it represents, then there are bigger things at stake.
Okay, so how do you want to handle it with her though? So she's kind of standing there with her arms folded and as I say, behind her, she's
Okay,
got a group.
I'll just say to her, obviously you've made a thing. We're just here to offer assistance. Obviously, as I say, obviously you've made a scientific discovery, and we're just here to offer assistance. Any claims on that will, don't quite know how to say this, but any regular claims on it will be honoured, sort of thing. So we will not interfere.
Okay, well that's reasonable. Okay, so she's sort of mollified a bit, and again, you get the impression that she's probably putting up a bit of a front,
A bit
certainly
of
in
a
front of her people.
show for our crew, sort of thing. Yeah.
Yeah, and she probably doesn't know. I mean, she's probably slightly. This is probably not what they were expecting. But again, you've
out of their comfort zone.
You've made all the right noises, so her sort of people kind of subside a little bit and kind of grumble. And again, you see Tala has reached the guys from the submarine, and she's like running a tricorder, and she's just, and obviously that's gone some way as well to kind of mollifying them a little bit, because of course, these are their crewmates essentially. Okay, so right, so captain's log supplemental. The ride down from the orbit was one my stomach won't forget for a while, but we made it. Our Orion friends are no doubt upset by this sudden turn of events. Here they've been trying to get at this thing, working with a tiny submarine, and all that problems brings before we show up, and their plans go out the window. This being an Iconian construct is problem enough. We know what the Iconians were capable of, but why is this thing here in the first place? And why does it seem to be waking up now? Who or what is behind it? I'm no expert on Iconian civilization or technology, and I feel somewhat out of my depth.
Slightly.
Okay, right. So you anyway, you've so you've met these guys after the initial kind of difficult conversation. They begin. They sort of chill out a little bit, and they say to you, well, okay, well, we can offer you refreshment, and you come this way, and they lead you over to their encampment, and they can offer you refreshment. And again, everything seems to have calmed down now. Even the sky has cleared somewhat, and it's actually quite a pleasant day. Again, you've been obviously you've as I say, you're kind of on the banks of this ocean here, and again things have calmed down a bit, and you're able to get some refreshment. And again, it's up to you whether you accept it or not, but they certainly offer you some refreshment, and they seem to be trying to be accommodating. Now that you're not obviously trying to take over their their claim, they've kind of calmed down a little bit.
Yeah. No, obviously we'll go over there and we'll act civil. We'll we're not threatening or anything like that. It's just we will go over there and engage in small talk and civil activities or whatever. And as I say, we just offer any help that they may require, because I mean, at the end of the day, as I said, it's this is a threat to the Federation. So if there's nothing on there that we want to get into that thing as much as they do now. So if we can offer help and assistance, we can, maybe we can go along for the ride, sort of thing.
Okay, that's a good plan.
But as I say, because we need to assess the threat. If there's nothing active in there, nothing, fair enough. But if there's something dangerous, we need to know. And it's not just threatening for the Federation; it's threatening for everybody with that technology.
Cool. Okay, how do the rest of you feel about that? Does that kind of fit in with your thinking?
Yeah, so I was going to suggest taking Kaz aside and saying about offering our help to explore the structure, because, and then hint that we have had dealings with this technology in the past, and we know that it can be booby trapped. Sort of make out that there's a bit of threat there, and in their best interest to let us accompany them.
Okay, that's a great idea. I like that.
That's not a bad idea.
That's a really good take. Yeah. So well, you could go wandering around there on your own, but it's very dangerous.
From our experience,
actually,
to be fair, you're not lying.
Actually, we could sell it as because you said Kiara's a previous host of a previous symbiont has had experience.
Correct.
So we could sort of sell it on that.
Hear that, Kiara? They're going to rely on you for your archaeological knowledge.
Well, no, not necessarily for that, but it's just say, well, as you can see, our chief engineer is a Trill, but one of our previous hosts has had experience with this sort of technology. And mind you, that's if we want to admit who we know who the Iconians are.
Well, you don't need to say they're Iconians. You just go with the Tilical, don't you? Because
yeah, that's true.
The Tilical are known, and again, because obviously Tuzhenko was on that space station. The first time you met her was on that space station and you had some dealings with the technology then. So actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get Koleesh to try to. Let's see whether Koleesh can convince them to. Let's see whether you can get Tuzhenko to feel kind of uncertain enough that she kind of buys that, because I think it's a perfectly reasonable position to take. And as you say, if you can get into the structure with them, then obviously if you need to take charge of the situation, depending on what you find, because at this point you haven't found anything. All you know is all you think you know is that this structure could be Iconian.
Yeah.
You need to get inside and check it out. Is what we're getting at. So okay.
Yeah.
So I think
Koleesh, can I suggest daring and command? It's daring because I'm trying to. Well, I don't think I need to explain.
Well, no, you're trying to front it out. No, I totally. That's exactly what I was going to suggest. Daring and command, you said, right?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. I think that's 100% correct. So why don't you? And I'm also going to give you the focus of distraction as well.
Nice.
Because again, you are trying to befuddle her slightly. So yeah, go ahead and go and give me 2 dice on that.
Okay, here we go.
Oh, nice. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Right. So you matter of factly, so you've obviously spoken to Kaz about this. Like I say, you had a quiet word with her.
Yep.
So you kind of march over to Tuzhenko. So she's I say she's got a beverage and is making sure that her people are okay and everything. And you just walk up to her and basically say, we've had experience with that we've had experience with this technology before, and you just lay it on the line that you think this is a dangerous situation. But the bottom line is, so she sort of looks at you, and she doesn't take much convincing. She's not she's a low risk. You get the impression she's a low risk kind of operator. Her scams that you've come across before. I mean, on the base, she was kind of using her her wiles to influence the base commander to get supplies and so on. And on Narendra, they were basically smuggling. But so she's not someone who's looking for a risky way to make a buck, honestly. So she's kind of and she doesn't take much convincing. So she agrees that it should be a joint expedition to try and get into the structure. I'm assuming you've probably got a couple of security guys with you as well. I know we didn't really establish this, but I'm going to assume the runabout can hold plenty of, the runabout's got plenty of space. So I'm going to assume your landing party consists of you three, Davis, who's flying the shuttle. He'll probably stay with the shuttle.
Probably about 7, isn't it? Limited to about 7.
Yeah, Osterhagen, and then you've got, let's say, medical officer Tala, and you've got 2 security guards with you.
Perfect. Yep.
Okay, so she says,
Captain.
What was that?
Oh, sorry, I said, look out, Captain. It's or is that a premonition?
No, we'll see. But who knows? If there's a large human, it was his name Ruck, wasn't it? That was him. Okay, so fine. So she seems actually quite relieved by this idea, because again, I think you got the impression earlier that she was feeling a little bit out of her depth here. no pun intended. So, and looking at the size of this structure, she's like, "Yeah, we're going to need some. We're going to need some help." So she gives orders to have her people. That basically starts pulling back equipment. And she's putting together an expedition team. So she gets a couple of her people, and they kind of get packs, and you don't quite know what you're going to encounter. Similarly, you gather all your you gather your equipment, so tricorders and so on and so on.
A bit of survival gear as well.
Yeah,
ropes
So as you are, so you've got your gear together, and you're kind of against. Davis is going to stay with the shuttle. If nothing else, because you don't want the Orions nicking it. Let's be honest.
Yeah.
And so he kind of locks himself in the runabout, but he stays with the runabout.
We'll come back and it'll be on bricks, won't it?
Exactly.
It'll be up on bricks with no warp pods. Yeah.
It's up on bricks, and it's got graffiti over it.
It's up on bricks, and they've had the nacelles away off it.
Exactly.
Mike, have you got one of those steering wheel bars that you can just put across?
You can't slice it out by lithium, can you?
That'd be perfect. Yeah, I love that idea. Right. So you gather all your gear. Like I say, it takes you an hour or so while you get all your stuff. And again, all the while, this structure in the background, it's kind of, there's water's kind of dripping off it, and it's like the water's cascading down the side, but it's obviously it's drying off basically as the water runs off it. And after about an hour or so, you gather all your gear. Like I say, you've got packs and weapons and tricorders and so on and so on. And you gather with Tazhenko. She has a party of 4 with her. There's a female Orion who seems to be some sort of equivalent science officer. So you see that she's got a Orion tricorder, kind of slung across her shoulder. The rest of the group are more typical burly male Orions. You suspect they're probably there for muscle as much as anything.
Mm-hmm.
And your kind of group gathers at the base of this structure to try and find a way in. As I say, Osterhagen detected what he thought was an entrance with his initial scans. So he directs you to that area. Giara, if you come up with any insights, you can always interrupt. As I say, Koleesh also mentioned, again, your host had some archaeological knowledge, but also your presence as an engineer is useful as well. So anyway, as you're all gathering towards the entrance, you can suddenly feel there's like a low rumbling, and all of the group look around because it starts off as a very low rumbling, and you start looking around. Can you hear that? And as you
pick it up, I suppose when we're hearing is on a higher frequency, so pick it up before everybody else.
So you all kind of look around, and you hear this kind of, it's like a very low rumbling. And as you are, Osterhagen brings up his tricorder, as does the female Orion, who's not Tazhenko. He's going to make a tricorder roll, which I will do for him. So it's going to be, I'm going to say, 15. Oh God, we're not doing well with those 20s today, are we? Okay, so he rolls his he brings his tricorder up, and he comes over to you, Kaz, and he says, this can't be right, Captain. My tricorder is detecting what seems to be a Vulcan life form inside the structure. I'm sure my tricorder must be malfunctioning.
Can you zone in on it? Can you?
The Orion female sort of looks at Tazhenko, and then she kind of comes over towards you, and she says, "No, I'm also detecting something that could be interpreted as Vulcanoid life signs." She says, "I cannot account for it." Hang on a second. Excuse me. Hopefully I have a little drink here. Right. So, as you are looking around in confusion, and an entryway appears, or rather, a doorway opens in the structure, and a figure emerges from the building. The doorway closes behind her, and you
Dave.
see. Yep.
Sorry, that doorway, is it like an Iconian doorway? You know the way they open? Is it that
No,
way?
it's just a doorway.
It's just a regular doorway. Okay, fine.
And from the pyramid emerges a Vulcan female, and you all look in surprise that she seems to be wearing a uniform that is more than a century out of date. She's wearing the uniform of a science officer from the 2260s. And as she sort of comes out of this structure, she looks around, and you can see that there's confusion on her face initially, but she very quickly regains her composure, and she approaches you, and she sort of clasps her hands behind her back, and she obviously has recognised your insignia. Now, obviously, you're wearing Starfleet uniforms that are...
I'll tell you what, it's a shame we didn't have Miller here.
Yeah. But she's wearing Starfleet uniform. She's wearing, as I say, she recognises the Starfleet insignia, and she says, "Who is the senior officer here?"
That would be me. I sort of like walk up to. I sort of like straighten up and walk up to this. Greet. Can I tell what rank she is?
I beg your pardon?
Can I tell what rank she is?
Yeah, she's a lieutenant, single stripe.
Okay.
Greetings. She says, "Greetings. I am Lieutenant Kerrin, junior science officer aboard the USS Lexington. Why am I here?"
That is an interesting question, Lieutenant. Well, hopefully we can find out.
Now, for those of you who played, do you remember the scenario that we played previously? So Lieutenant Kerrin was the science officer who disappeared. So when the Lexington was investigating the artifact that was in orbit of that planet, she was the Vulcan science officer who disappeared, and was never heard from again up until this point. Now, obviously, none of you recognise her. I mean, your Osterhagen scans confirm that she is a Vulcan, as she appears to be, and obviously, you will need to. You'd need to contact the ship to verify her identity.
Yeah.
However,
Steve, would we have studied the information about the Lexington at all prior to this?
Sure. I think certainly Koleesh probably Koleesh would have done, purely from a tactical point of view. So yeah, I think it's perfectly reasonable that Koleesh certainly would know the name.
I'm just wondering if we could have, as a crew, maybe had a briefing on what happened with the Lexington.
Sure. In fact, if you remember, actually, I'm glad you reminded me. So if you remember, we had in our last session, I think we had Lexington Day, which was the Memorial Day for when the Lexington was destroyed.
Yeah.
So I think after a minute or two, you kind of all that's totally reasonable. So I think all of you, recognise the name. Now you may want to verify her. Obviously, you can take, you can get the medical officer to do a scan, which she will happily submit to. And to cut a long story short, you are able to verify that she is indeed who she says she is. She is Lieutenant Kerrin. She appears to have aged no more than a couple of days since she disappeared. So based upon her last, medical scans on the Lexington, which you can retrieve from Starfleet records, and all of this will take a little bit of time. But again, I'm saving you a bit of time by telling you that she is indeed who she appears to be. She is Lieutenant Kerrin, formerly of the USS Lexington, and she does not seem to be able to remember the specifics of how she got here.
Would that be if we had access to? Because you say, I'm assuming we've got access to the ship's to the Lexington's logs.
You would probably have. Yes, you would have. You'd have to do it from the runabout. Because you
go from the runabout. Yeah, but ships.
You'd have to access the ships. Yeah, you can. Again, you don't. We don't need to play through all of that. I'm going to tell you that she is who she says she is.
Yeah.
And I understand that you will probably spend some time confirming that.
It's just as I say, because if she can't remember what happened, surely it would be in the logs that she would that would at least explain the circumstances of her disappearance, if not the cause of it.
No. She remembers clearly the events that led up to her disappearance. So she remembers being because she was in an environment suit. You were at the edge of the system. You were the Lexington was investigating this object that was kind of floating in space, and she approached it and just disappeared. Basically, from the point of view of the other characters, she just was snatched away. And she remembers that she remembers being in the spacesuit. She remembers approaching it. She doesn't then remember anything else. As I say, she remembers basically waking up here, walking out of that doorway, and seeing you guys standing there. Now, obviously, you will explain to her, say, oh well, it's 103 years, like whatever it is, 104 years later.
I think we'd start with.
And she
welcome to the world of tomorrow.
There you go. And she she takes it. I mean, as well as could be expected, I guess. She's a Vulcan, so she's probably freaking out inside, but certainly on she accepts it with stoicism, and she she will happily submit to any investigations that you wish to undertake. But again, I'll save you some time, and yes, you can go back to the runabout, you can check with the log, but basically she is who she says she is. Starfleet records, DNA, everything confirms that she is indeed Lieutenant Kerrin, which in itself is something of a mystery. But
Steve, is that a tricorder around her?
Yes, so that's the old style tricorder.
Does she actually have that on her? I know this is just a visualization.
She does, yeah.
Is it full of information?
Interesting. Excellent point. I'm glad you asked.
Or did they store information on those? The old
yeah, they do. Interestingly, so you can certainly and again, so Tuzhenko agrees to postpone your investigation because obviously when you explain to her what this is, so again, to her team's point of view, this Vulcan woman has walked out of this structure, which obviously is somewhat of a surprise. And then one of you, presumably Kaz, will explain to Tuzhenko who this is, and she fully kind of accepts. Again, this is up to the weirdometer rating quite significantly for her. So she is more than happy to postpone any further investigation while you carry out. So like I say, you verify her identity. And you take So one of the things you do is you go take her tricorder back to the runabout, and it is completely devoid of any information. It's been completely wiped.
Okay, yep.
And it was definitely worth checking. Yeah, but it's odd because it's literally got nothing on it at all. It's been expertly cleansed. There's no data at all on it.
Okay. Yeah.
And also, she can't account for how come she was wearing an environment suit. When she, her last recollection was that she was in a spacesuit, and when she appears here, she's, so she basically wasn't even wearing her Starfleet uniform.
Oh right, okay.
Well, because of course, if you're wearing when they put the spacesuits on, they put on under, you don't put the spacesuit on over your.
You put an undergarment on.
Yeah, you have some sort of undergarment, like long johns or whatever. But as far as I'm aware, that's the same with 24th century spacesuits. So yeah, she's again, she's like quite again, she can't account for how she's ended up here, and she's wearing her uniform, carrying a tricorder when she was last, wearing a spacesuit. But again, anything you want to do.
I know this is a funny question. Can she confirm that is her personal uniform?
That's not a funny question at all. Okay, so let me think. How could she verify that? So she relates to you that as far as
she doesn't need to prove it. She doesn't need to prove it, but as long as she's comfortable that is her belongings.
I understand what you're saying. Yeah. So is this something
so funny or something that you recognise?
That's a good question. So the first thing she will again, and she will respond to your questioning with eminent Vulcan patience. And all she can tell you is that the uniform fits her perfectly. So that in itself is says something. So it's in other words, it's not a like a cosplay replica. It actually fits her because of course uniforms in both the 23rd and 24th century, they're made, replicators make them, and that your measurements are scanned exactly. So she says, yes, it fits her absolutely perfectly. She can't remember any distinguishing marks from her own uniform that, so there's no like frayed collar or, something like that where she might go, oh yeah, I had this thread, because her uniform is immaculate.
Ractagino stains or anything.
Exactly. And she can't find anything that would account for it. However, both her boots and her uniform fit her absolutely perfectly. Interestingly, the tricorder, again, does not seem to have any hallmarks on it. And if you want to go to the extenuating lengths of checking the serial number of the tricorder in Starfleet records to see whether this tricorder was indeed issued to the USS Lexington, there is no record of it. In fact, basically you can't find a serial number on it. So again, because it's a piece of equipment, right? So it will have a serial number somewhere, or there'll be some sort of a record of it. Interestingly, this device, although it is a perfect rendering of a tricorder, it does not have the standard serial number that you would expect to find. So if you get a tricorder from the Vigilant, you take the back off it. There's somewhere buried away. There'll be a serial number hidden away, and somewhere in Starfleet records they will be able to identify that tricorder is assigned to the Vigilant. So this tricorder, you cannot prove either way that it is assigned to the Lexington. You can't say it isn't, but you can't say it is because there is no serial number on it. That makes sense?
Yeah. And just so my knowledge is correct, they didn't have comm badges, did they? The little shiny badge on a top is just an
correct.
emblem.
Yeah, it's just like a cloth badge. But I mean, and again, again, I don't want to get too nerdy, but in he says running a Star Trek game, but in depending on which canon you believe, some branches of Starfleet canon or Star Trek canon has it that the Starfleet had a different badge for every ship. So in other words, however, my kind of I think the official position is that Starfleet insignia is the arrowhead. So so it's not like she has any distinguishing. So the arrowhead is the arrowhead, and again that all seems perfectly correct and legitimate. But again, nothing to tie it specifically to the Lexington. Okay, so has anyone else got any other questions they want to ask about her, or I mean, other than the obvious, like how the hell did you get here? But she unfortunately can't help you with that.
What is the last thing she remembers?
Yeah, she literally. So the last thing she remembers is that she'd been assigned to investigate with other members of the Lexington's crew to investigate an alien device that was at the edge of a star system. I can't remember the name of the star system off the top of my head, but if you anyone listening who's interested, if you refer back to the episode, I think it was probably episode 61, which I think was Piece of the Puzzle. So she remembers being in a spacesuit. She remembers investigating this artifact. She approached the artifact. There was a bright light, and then the next thing she remembers is walking out of that door and seeing your smiling faces waiting for her. And that's all she can remember. As I say, interestingly, she seems to have aged no more than a couple of days. So her chronological age seems to have only increased by 48 hours or so since she was last scanned by the Lexington's biocompute, by the Lexington's computers.
Are we able to scan her to see if there are any traces of particles that might indicate time travel?
Certainly, yeah, you can do that. Osterhagen can scan for chroniton particles, which I believe is the.
That was the word I was looking for.
That's the Star Trek particle, the Fixel particle. So I'll get. Okay, so she's quite happy to submit herself to any kind of investigation because she genuinely seems to be as confused as you are by this. In a Vulcan way, obviously, but yeah, she can't really account for it either. So. Oh, great. Science officer flubs it. That's brilliant. Okay, well, he can have another go. Yeah, there's no time limit, so he can. Okay, those 2 successes. Right, so he scans her thoroughly. The runabout doesn't have the runabout does have a bio bed, I think. So it doesn't have full medical, like it doesn't have like a sick bay, but it does have like a diagnostic bed, I guess. So he kind of takes her onto the takes her onto the runabout, and she submits to a scan quite happily. And again, he doesn't find any chronoton particles. The only thing he finds, as I say, is that her chronological age seems to have increased by about 48 hours, which is an oddity because, again, she remembers.
But she has no memory of those 48 hours.
She remembers disappearing and reappearing here. She doesn't remember anything else. So, to her perception, there's a few minutes discrepancy at most, whereas the medical scan suggests that she's actually been. She's aged by about 48 hours because ships sensors scan all the time, and that you have records from Starfleet, that before the Lexington was destroyed, and you can pretty accurately estimate her kind of actual age. So
Is
she's probably.
Is she hungry or thirsty?
Oh, what a good question.
Couple light.
That's a really good question. Never even occurred to me. What a good question. Okay.
No, but okay, so this is leading towards, if she isn't hungry or thirsty, she must have eaten something in the last 48 hours. So can we work out what she's eaten?
Or she must be a robot.
Or she might be.
I'm assuming she's not, because you said that she is who she says she is, and I trust.
Yeah.
I trust you. No.
Yeah. She. Sorry, Mike. Go on.
No, I was going to say to point to our medical technician to sort of like give her a quick once over, make sure she's okay.
And again, I mean everything that actually though, she if so, let's assume Prux kind of, after all of this initial excitement has died down and this initial questioning has died down, Prux just goes up to her and says, can I offer you some food? And she goes. She looks at you and she says, I had not even considered the fact that I'm hungry. And she accepts. She says, yes, food would be most welcome. And in case you're wondering, you conjure up some plomeek soup or whatever the Vulcan delicacy is. That
how about offering her the real test is offer her a bacon sandwich.
Because she's vegetarian, yeah. No, she won't accept a bacon sandwich.
If she does, if she takes a bacon sandwich,
I'd love to think that the bacon sandwich is still a thing in the 24th century, but I'm not
convinced. Of course it is.
I can't imagine that's going to die out.
No, we've had this theoretical conversation, haven't we?
We have. But anyway, you get us. You offer, say, look, we have a replicator, and she's actually intrigued by the replicator because again, this is another subtle point that this is technology.
Mike's on the wrong voice. Oh, he's back.
He's back.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah.
I've got my laptop back up and thinking. I'm trying to get onto the tabletop.
Okay. Well, have you looked at if you just go to in the Discord chat, there is just a link there to it.
So it's just general, yeah, or is it voice?
If you go into the STA game chat, so it's not a voice channel.
Oh, right. Okay. So if I go into
there, and if you scroll up a little bit, you'll see that I put a
right.
See that I put a link.
Right. Now let's kill myself out of that. Right. So you guys still there? Right.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. You shouldn't be messing with your voice at all. You just click on the game.
No. I haven't touched the voice. So I've shut down the voice on the computer. So I'm just talking to you through my phone. So, but I can get into the tabletop.
Okay. So, Steve, speaking for Osterhagen, because I know how he thinks, he would suggest a mind meld.
Okay, yeah, that's totally acceptable. Also, he'll probably have taken a DNA sample by now. There's no doubt about that.
True. No doubt.
Okay, fine. In fact, actually, for once, he doesn't even have to be surreptitious about it. She'll just offer one because that's how you can identify her. So, she agrees to a mind meld. She says, because again, everything that she's projecting tells you that she is also genuinely, she is genuinely
as intrigued as we are.
Exactly. She has no idea what has happened here. Okay, so yes, Osterhagen can indeed do a mind meld. So again, we're going to say that the day is drawing on here, and you have now agreed with the Orion team that you are going to restart your investigations tomorrow morning because it's getting dark now. And so what happens is you post one of your Starfleet, well, the two Starfleet security guards and a couple of Orions will kind of take turns to guard the entrance. Just out of interest, if you made a superficial attempt to see whether you could open the door, and the door didn't open. All right, so you kind of walked up to it, and it doesn't just open. But for safety, you like I say, you post an Orion guard and a Starfleet guard.
I'll refer you to my previous question. Is there any glyphs on the entrance? Or
there is nothing that you have seen so far. So there are patterns, and there are the surface of the pyramid is not smooth. So there are all sorts of impressions and things, but there doesn't appear to be any obvious language, if that's what you're asking. There certainly is not any of the Tilical markings that you have seen previously, and there is certainly you don't have any of the blue, the blue power line.
But there's there's no glyphs or markings of any kind.
No, the door seems to be a featureless door, and as I say, if you have approached the door, it does not appear to open. But again, you have agreed with the Orions that you will pause any further investigation until tomorrow.
Is this the door that Vulcan come through, by the way?
I beg your pardon? Yes, it's the only door that you have found, yes.
Right, okay.
Okay, so you have retreated to the runabout. As I say, you've left one of your guards at the pyramid with one of the Orions, and they're just keeping, and basically the two guards will rotate. He'll do a few hours, and then the other guy will go and relieve him. That does mean tomorrow, when you do your investigations, only one of the security guards will go with you, obviously, because the other one will need to get some rest.
I'm going to, as I say, I'm going to get in contact with the ship and have a chat with them.
Okay.
Make sure just get a situation report and make sure they get
everything is totally fine. Everything is nominal. There's no other ships in the system. There's your message was sent to Starfleet Command, and there was an acknowledgement of receipt, but you've had no kind of further orders yet.
So what's the response time on that?
Well, it's not going to be that long because I think this system's not too far away. But you've just sent a status report, and they've acknowledged the receipt of it, but there's been no further orders, and so everything seems fine on the ship again. So everything seems fine. So, sorry, Kerrin, you had something to say?
I did. I didn't know that I'd voiced that I had something to say, but I was wondering about the our new Vulcan friend, her ancestors, like anyone who's living now. I was wondering if we get that information.
Good question.
You can certainly. I don't know why I want to know that, but I do.
No, you can certainly, yeah. I would say yes, indeed. You could certainly investigate that again. So basically, the runabout is a as I said, the runabout is a big shuttlecraft, but you've got a cockpit at the front. You have a kind of communal area at the back, which has got like a couple of bunks in it, and it's got like a table and a replicator and so on. And
Sorry,
I'm going to say
ancestors. I meant descendants, obviously.
Yeah, I know what you meant. And I'm going to say that the rest of the runabout has got accommodation. So there's a couple of small cabins. So that the unit that you've got built, because the runabout has like an interchangeable pod in the middle, but the one that you've got is the kind of long range exploration pod. So what that means is there are a couple of bedrooms. I mean, I say bedrooms, they're small cabins. So you can all take turns at getting some rest. And so, yeah, certainly, Koleesh, you can go and sit at the in the stern section. There is a full sort of computer terminal. And so, yes, you can determine that she does indeed have living relatives. In fact, one of her siblings is still alive, and although her sibling is now about 175 years old, for Vulcan, that's not, Vulcans live to be 200, 250. So one of her siblings is actually still alive, living on Vulcan, and she has also has a couple of cousins or familiar relatives not from her direct family who are serving in Starfleet. So yeah, you can relate that information to her, and she probably will want to know at least in broad strokes what's happened in the last 105 years, 104 years.
I say, well, funnily enough, we've got a crew member on board who can help you with that.
Indeed, yes, you have old what's his name,
Miller.
Yeah. So again, so your evening will pass very quickly with one thing and another, and one of the things that happens is Osterhagen takes her off to the back section of the runabout, and he attempts a mind meld with her. So you probably Tala will probably hang around just as a precaution, being a medical officer, and he does the whole my mind to your mind thing. And he manages to establish contact. So he picks up on the fact that again her mind is open, and all of her memories are in place. However, there are no memories between the time that she disappeared and the time that she came through the doorway.
Okay.
So he scans her, the whole mind meld thing. But he finds nothing. That gap is still a gap. There's nothing there. She can't remember it.
Does that indicate unconsciousness?
It may do, but even unconscious Vulcans will dream, and he's just getting nothing at all. There's literally a black hole. Oh, I don't want to use a Babylon 5 term, but there's a hole in her mind. Effectively,
yeah, but that in itself is evidence because something's been removed.
Mm-hmm.
Because if she just literally stepped through a doorway in 2200, 2260, and now appeared here, it would be thing. Something happened to her within that time period.
Yeah, quite right.
They've removed it, so she's got. I mean, UFO abductee. I mean, she's got missing time.
Yeah. And again, Osterhagen it's very this mind meld process is very taxing on both participants, right? So they both have to have a rest afterwards, and but once he's recovered a bit, and again, this is late into the evening now, he comes and speaks to you both, and just explain. He says, look, everything that she's told us, as far as he can determine, is true. He can see the events before she disappeared, but there is nothing other than a bright light, and then her re-emergence, earlier today. And there is nothing. She's not hiding anything. She's got no repressed memories. There's literally just nothing in that period in between. And so again, it doesn't really tell you anything, but it does tell you that there is probably some other agency involved, because even if she was asleep, there would be some sort of memory. There would be dreams, and so on.
Yep.
Okay. So right. So anyway, then you all take the opportunity to get some rest. Again, she is offered a cabin and is soon asleep, and the rest of you get sleep as you can. Again, the runabout's got there's bunk beds, and there's, as I say, there's a couple of cabins as well. And the night passes without incident. Again, when you all wake, the security guards have done a changeover. The guy who was there for the initial shift we'll go with, because I like to name these guys. So we'll go with Ensign or Crewman Marconi. He was the first security guard, and he just reports to you because he's come back in the middle of the night. Has had some sleep. He wakes up and tells you that there was nothing to report other than it being a big creepy pyramid. But he says that the Orion that he was stationed with wasn't very chatty at all. But nothing happened. Basically, they waited for a few hours, and then they were relieved by I think it would have been Crewman Morgan, and another Orion turned up to relieve them, and they're still there now, as far as we know. He's checked in with Morgan this morning, and she says again, nothing. There's been nothing There's been lots of goings on with the Orion camp, but they've been basically packing up equipment, or at least they've been packing up the kind of drilling equipment and so on. Because
they don't actually have a ship to leave, do they?
They don't.
No.
So they've been busying themselves by dismantling, drilling equipment, cranes. The submarine has been there's been a team working on the submarine, although they may have to abandon the submarine because if you do give them a lift on the Vigilant, or you certainly can't be taking a submarine on board. But again, they may be making their own arrangements. But the point is that they've been kind of breaking down the mining operations side of things overnight. So there's been plenty of activity, but as far as the pyramid goes, it's been quiet. Okay. Cool. So has anybody got anything they want to deal with before we head back to the pyramid?
I do not.
No, I don't think so. I mean, again, I'll give them, when we wake up in the morning, I'll give a status update to the ship.
Sure. Again, night has passed without any incident on the ship. So Katie West is back in. She's back on duty, and she just gives you a report. Orbit maintains, no sensor contacts.
Yeah. Well, tell them we plan to penetrate. Explore the pyramid.
Yeah, there's
I'd basically tell her because we've never actually scanned the pyramid, have we?
I beg your pardon? No, because scans haven't been able to penetrate it because of the neutronium.
But we haven't actually scanned the pyramid itself. Even if we can't penetrate it, we haven't actually scanned it.
I mean, Osterhagen did initially. That's how he knew it was. That's why he figured out it was Iconian.
Oh, right.
And neutronium.
So we haven't. But have we done it from the ship?
No, you didn't order it. You didn't order them to do that, but you can do if you want.
Yeah, I will do.
What are you looking for?
Just give it a general scan, information gathering.
All right. So they go off and do that. They come back to you about 10 minutes later and essentially give you the same report. So the structure appears to be neutronium, or it's got enough neutronium in it at least that it is that the sensors can't penetrate it. They confirm that all the energy readings have calmed down. So remember, as we said, obviously you were brought here because of the gravimetric readings, but those readings have all subsided. And that has continued throughout the night. So there doesn't seem to be anything untoward, other than the fact that a giant frigging pyramid has appeared. But in terms of energy, all of that stuff has all died down. So so all seems, suspiciously quiet, to be honest.
It's always quiet.
One other thing that West mentions is that the Orions did in fact send a message from the planet's surface. However, the Vigilant was able to intercept it because it's, frankly, they don't have military grade equipment.
I mean, that wasn't unexpected. So
but to be fair, all they've done is they've sent a message off to their employer, because they've been hired by another corporation or whatever, and they've simply requested transport. So they sent off a message explaining that the original transport was destroyed. They have reported a significant find, but again they've been light on specifics. Again, West they were able to intercept the message. Again, it might be that there's coding in the there might be coded elements, but on the face of it, they've simply called home base and said, great news, we found what we were looking for, found the pyramid, or found a structure. We're going to investigate further, but we are going to need transportation because our original ship has been destroyed. So,
as a matter of interest, did they mention us?
They did. They did mention that a Starfleet vessel had rendered assistance, and that was still on station, pending arrival of another ship.
Yeah,
because they assume you're going to stick around for a bit, and obviously
they'll be right.
Yeah, but that's about it really. So it all seems pretty normal. Nothing unexpected there. And again, unless you want to get security to delve into the sort of message, see whether there's any hidden messages.
Yeah, I mean, it's not really. I don't know. I suppose they can if they've got nothing better to do, but
Yeah.
I know these
Still
security
twiddling
types.
their thumbs up there.
Yeah, I know these security types. They like to slack off.
Yeah. Oh, Sarah Jane, can I just interrupt for a second? Did you see that spoof message that got sent out at work?
I did, yes.
So did you get fooled by it?
Nope, I sent it to
well done, you. Yeah, we were all jumping around, feeling very smug with ourselves that we spotted it. So because because I think what tipped us off was that they were sending it out alphabetically. So my colleague Aaron, whose name begins with a B, he got it first. We all looked at it and he went, "This looks dodgy." So we said, "Yeah, that's definitely dodgy." And then another colleague got it about 10 minutes later, and then I got it later in the day because they were obviously going through alphabetically. So I said, I don't think genuine. I don't think it works that way. So, but yeah, no, I'm glad you. Oh, that's good. I'm glad you clocked it.
I've never actually been caught out by one of them yet.
That's good.
I did get caught out by one about 2 years ago. But it was only because I was doing 3 other things at once, and you know how you just you just kind of wish that you'd just taken a bit of time to look at it, and I got caught out by it. So I'm even more cautious nowadays than I used to be. So anyway, so yeah, that just reminded me of that. Talking about security slacking off with nothing better. Okay, right. So
Steve,
yes,
did we get Starfleet?
The only response you got so far, the only response you've had was an acknowledgement. First of all, there's been nothing further since. However,
but you would have thought the term Iconian would have tripped a few alarms.
I would imagine there are probably discussions going on back at Narendra Station.
Yeah, I was wondering if they'd be sending fleets of ships to try and secure this.
Maybe. I suspect you will probably get further communication from them. And like I say, they acknowledge receipt of the message, so you know that they've received it.
Okay.
And if you know the crew, the people on the Narendra Station, old Doctor what's her name, there'll be a big meeting going on with her shouting the odds at Admiral Herbert.
Yeah.
And yes, as Kerrin says, I would not be surprised if other vessels would be appearing relatively quickly. And they may not have confirmed that purely because of having the Orion presence.
Of course.
But again, I would expect you will get further communication on that point later. But as of now, all they've done is acknowledge the message, and they'll send further instructions. But again, Kaz, rightly so. You need to investigate the structure. I mean, your orders, just out of interest, by the way, you will have standing orders.
Dealing with how to deal with this.
I think the standing orders when it comes to Iconians would be along the lines of, if you come across anything Iconian or you think is Iconian, then you investigate to confirm that it is Iconian, and then further action will be determined. But the first step is you need to confirm it. So yes, doing what you're doing is totally in line with your orders, i.e., go in there, check it out.
Okay, cool.
Okay, cool. Right. So anyway, at the appointed time, then you all reconvene outside the pyramid structure, and I'm assuming that you're going to bring Lieutenant Turin with you. And if you do not suggest it, she politely suggests that she would like to come along because obviously she's looking for answers herself. As to what happened to her, and she suspects the answers must be within the structure.
Yeah. I've got no problem with it as long as Kaz has no problem.
No, I'm fine. I think it's a good idea actually because he's obviously involved in what's going on here.
Okay. So you return to the structure. You return to the pyramid, and you approach the entrance, which is where Turin arrived from originally. And as you approach, you see crewman Morgan and an unnamed Orion having a conversation, but they seem relaxed. She kind of becomes a bit more alert when you approach, and she reports to Koleesh because Koleesh is technically is her senior officer, and she just says, "Sir, just reporting, no occurrences through the night. It's all been quiet here. Nothing to report, basically."
Mm-hmm.
And
I'll relieve him.
yeah, and she'll head off back to the two of them will leave and go back to their relevant places to get some sleep, I would imagine. As I say, you've got the other guy with you, who's I've already forgotten his name. You've got Marconi. I think I said Marconi. Yeah, you've got Marconi with you. So he's going to accompany you. You know, and again, the Orion similarly have got their little group as well. Okay. Right. So you approach the. So you've got this doorway. You have a little look around. There's no obvious glyphs or any sort of mechanism. However, as you approach with Kerrin in tow, the door actually opens. So you don't have to.
Kerrin is triggering it then.
Well, maybe it recognizes her. You don't know, but as she's in your party. So as you sort of approach it and you're looking around, the door just opens. And beyond the door, there is simply a featureless corridor, which heads off some distance into the structure. It's a long corridor, but it's basically featureless. It's again made from the same material, and
I'm going to run a tricorder scan of the corridor.
Okay, so if you want to make a reason and science roll, Osterhagen will do the same.
I can actually do that now. Hopefully.
Yeah.
So
Osterhagen's going to do the same.
So it's roll 1d10, isn't it? So
2d20.
2d20. How do you change the number of dice? You just roll.
You just click on it twice.
Right.
And if you do it in quick succession, it'll roll 2 together. So you've got 10 and a 20. So 20.
Yeah.
But basically, the complication.
We have had a lot of 20s.
Yeah, we have. To be honest, the complications though are simply that the thing just doesn't pick anything up because essentially these walls are lined with neutronium. So you scan and all you can scan is the corridor that you're in. You're not picking up. There's certainly no energy readings or anything untoward. There's no sign of any of the gravimetric distortions.
Can we see what's at the other end of the corridor? Is it another doorway?
It looks like there's just another doorway. Yeah.
Okay.
You can basically see it. It's as I say. And interestingly, there is light. Seems to be coming. There are like recessed kind of ridges in the corner, in the edges of the roof. If you imagine, there's like where you would have the where the ceiling meets the wall. There's like a recessed ridge along there, and there seems to be some sort of lighting system. It's quite dim, but there is light. It's not completely pitch black.
What colour is it? Oh, that's a silly question.
Kind of like a warm, like a yellow light.
So
it's not blue.
It's not blue. It's
definitely not blue. It's basically looks like it. It's low level lighting. It's enough to see, where you're walking, but it's not really bright at this point. Okay. As Kerrin, as you walk you head into the structure, and Kerrin she pauses for a moment and she looks around and she says, "For some reason, Captain, I feel that this artifice is called a locus. I don't know why this word has come to mind, but I am convinced that this structure is known as a locus. Does this mean anything to you?"
No, but a locus
other than the obvious, as in a locus is a
Oh no! I know what a locus is.
But it's she says, but she can't account for it. She says, I just seem to think that's what this is known as. But I think we should proceed in this direction. And she, indicates you've only got one direction you can go.
I sort of like look at her and said, "Well, lead on, Lieutenant."
Okay, so she says, indeed, and she heads on. Now, Tizhenko and her people sort of hang back a little bit, probably because they're thinking if there's any sort of death trap, they're quite happy to let you lot set it off. So they hang back a bit, but you can see that
you walk it. Yeah.
You can see that her people, her science officer is similarly just scanning as she goes and having similar results. In fact, Orion tricorders are not as good as Starfleet's issue, so
I thought they'd be at least the same because the little buggers would have stolen them, wouldn't they?
Yeah, probably.
I know.
Okay, so you carry on down this passageway. You notice, by the way, that the door to the exterior does not close behind you, in case you're worried. So, in other words, the door to the outside seems to remain open. You can still see the daylight through the, as you head further into this passageway. You do notice that your communications are getting harder. If you're trying to communicate, keep in touch with like the runabout or with the Orion.
Have we got something we could use as a booster set at the
Not
door?
really. I mean, you didn't really bring anything with you.
No, I agree. No.
But also, it's not unexpected because neutronium again is this super dense material. So you assume your communication signal is getting out through the passageway. But once you get further into the building, it's likely that you'll lose communication. But again, that's not I don't think that's necessarily sinister. It's kind of what you would expect. So okay, right. So you proceed on, and you eventually, after about 10 minutes of walking, so this corridor's quite long, you reach this other door, and it's identical to the door that you've passed through on the outside. It may be slightly thinner, if that makes sense, but it seems to be made from the same sort of featureless material. And once again, as she approaches the door, the doorway opens, and you enter into a much larger. There's basically a large open chamber that you enter into. So hopefully you guys can see that image. You got that?
Yep.
Whale.
Yep.
Yeah, I see what you mean. Like, it almost looks like ribs and Again, that was me messing around with AI art to try and give you some sort of representation of what this looks like. Actually, just out of interest, just total sideline, but out of all these images, so that was that's my usual thing of taking a 3D model and fiddling around with it and sticking it onto a different background. Submarine was just a Googled image. Somebody had just done a submarine and drawing, but these are all AI that I've done with. So this one, this one was an image I took out of the Shackleton Expanse book, but I cut her out of the background, dropped her onto a background, and then this was another AI one. So yeah, I've been playing around with AI art quite a bit for these games, just because it's actually quite easy to come up with decent looking images, much easier than it used to be. So just out of interest. Anyway, right. So you enter this large area. I was hoping to. I think I did at one point have some little figures to put on here, but this let's say that you're this is I don't know how tall this is. This is probably a couple of 100 feet high, this space. And as you enter this area, obviously it's quite impressive. You all sort of take a pause, look around. Again, tricorders come out, and Taryn points to the structure or the object at the center, and she says, this seems familiar to me.
How so, Lieutenant?
This I realise is known as the Oracle.
Oracle.
It is this object which pulled me from the Madrigal system when I was investigating the device in the Madrigal system. Somehow it was tied to this object, but my memories are so vague, I can't remember anything specific. I just know that this is referred to as the Oracle. And she sort of looks around in confusion again for a Vulcan. She seems
just as a matter of interest. It's obviously this must be what, because I've just looked up the meaning of locust, and it's the place or something where something happens.
Yeah,
I know the thing. It's the place where something happens or a central area of interest in something being discussed.
She says, I all I know is that the Oracle brought me here, but I do not have the impression that it meant me harm. And she sort of drifts off a little bit. Again, she's obviously trying to focus her thoughts on this. Meanwhile, Osterhagen, and the Orion, again, if none of the rest of you think of it, They pull out tricorders and are like scanning this equipment or scanning this device. And Osterhagen confirms that this object is definitely Iconian in origin, and again, it is at least
what if it's
200,000 years old.
What if it's what controls the doorways?
You have no way of. Yeah, I mean, it could very well do.
No way of knowing. Just speculating. It's just what if it's.
However, you do one thing. So as you're looking around at this device, you also because you see at the base of the structure, so that sort of blue column there. So it looks like there's a device at the bottom of it, and that seems to be, from her description, and you can't really see it in this image, but there's a device at the bottom, and the device at the bottom is basically the same as the thing that was in space that they were investigating on the Lexington, is what she's getting at.
Okay.
So it's a TARDIS console.
Kind of, yeah, I guess, yeah. In fact, actually, she said, and also as you're looking around this space, one of the Orions calls over to Tashenko, and he says, "Over here." And if you go to investigate, you see that there seems to be a sort of a control area off to one side. Clearly, some sort of consoles. I mean, for want of a better word, a console. But it's clearly seems to be some sort of a control area. And you can. Well, maybe you can't see an object that looks like a gate. Again, you've never seen one in person, but obviously you've read reports.
But what I'm trying to say is, again, is there any glyphs or markings, any Iconian? Because I think we have seen Iconian markings before, haven't we?
Yeah.
I believe.
So as you're investigating, you sort of head over there, and so Kerrin follows you, and you can see in this area there are indeed glyphs scattered around the control area, and there looks like there's also what seems to be some sort of a star map on one of the walls, and it seems to be dim at the moment. You can see on it what it looks clearly like a star map of some sort, but
can I identify it? I'm actually probably not going to be, because it's going to be 200 years out of his 200 million years of interstellar drift, isn't it? So can we?
Yeah, you can start looking at it, and Osterhagen and the other science officer will start checking it out. And again, there is a kind of a pentagonal console, which seems to be the control center. And as you rightly guessed, there are definitely Iconian symbols that you can identify on this console and on some of the walls where around the area. But you'll need to do some investigation of that, because obviously you don't read Iconian, but clearly this is reinforcing the idea that this is an Iconian structure.
Does Fiora read Iconian from her experience as an archaeologist?
That's a good point, actually. I would say that she would probably. Yeah, okay. I'll get you to make a. Let's have a look, because right as we said, the way that your trill, your kind of memories are somewhat buried, because for you to function as a with a healthy psychological profile, you can't have the memories of 6 different beings interacting, but you can pull these memories back. So I think if you go with an insight and science roll,
and 3 for 13.
Yeah, see if you can beat a 13.
1. Okay.
Yeah, so 2D. Okay, that's 1 success.
Nice.
Oh my god!
What did she get? 2 20s?
No.
Just a 1.
120.
Okay. So you sort of rack your brains. You can't quite remember. I mean, you remember that your previous host had some knowledge, but what you think you can do is maybe modify the tricorder to be able to interpret some of the glyphs.
Okay.
So yeah, and because what Kerrin works with. She comes over to you and she suggests a frequency. She suggests that you, and again, she says, I don't know why this seems important, but I suggest you reconfigure the tricorder to this frequency. And she suggests a frequency that's outside of the tricorder's normal scanning range. But again, with your kind of knowledge, you can have a fiddle around. So if you would make me a reason science roll, just you only need one success for this, though.
Okay, so reason is 11
It'll
and
be
science.
13 again, I think, is it?
14. Reason is 11, science.
Perfect. There you go. Yeah. So just see if you can get beat. So 2d20 for me.
7 and
Perfect.
12.
2 successes. Okay, so you've got 1 point of momentum and you've got a success. Right. So you spend sorry, go on.
At last.
Oh, yeah, at last. Right, and so you fiddle around with the tricorder, and she sort of gives you some pointers. And again, she seems confused by where this knowledge is coming from. But sure enough, after a few moments of working, and the Orions kind of fall back and they're kind of watching you work.
Mhm.
You are able to, so she sets the tricorder up and you begin to be able to make a translation. And as you activate the tricorder on that frequency, then you will see that the star map becomes activated and you see it sort of lights up. And you suspect it's probably showing you locations of other Iconian gateways throughout the galaxy. Because you can see that the star map seems to be a galactic. It's a map of the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, but as you suspect, the star patterns are probably some time out of date. But given that this structure is so old, however, you should be able to interpret that. The ship's computers will be able to account for that. So I suspect that Osterhagen will start recording. He'll get his tricorder out and he'll start, taking recordings of the star map. And as this is all coming to life, and again, some of these glyphs are lighting up. And Kerrin speaks to you, Kaz, and she says, I believe that the Oracle is the key to the locus and others like it, which are scattered at different points in space. I believe this map is showing you these other locations.
Orion's hearing this.
If I'm correct, this is a representation of the Iconian Gateway network.
Orion's hearing this.
Well, the Orions are again, they're keeping out of the way at the moment because they're definitely taking it in, and you can certainly see that the Orion science officer is taking scans. Now, you don't know whether they've heard the word Iconian at this point.
Well, we have,
but you suspect that Tuzhenko might be beginning to suspect that there's more going on here than she might be aware of, because she's certainly not stupid.
Just a matter of interest. Actually, we're probably not going to be able to do it if we once we get the coordinates for the map sorted out and accounted for drift and stuff.
Yeah.
First thing I want to do is, you remember the planet that something free,
mm-hmm.
the one where we had the one things that had the Tilikali base or whatever, it tells you the city on it. Does any of the locations on the map tally up with that?
Yeah. Right. So you do some number crunching. Like I say, so the Orions are, again, they're kind of interested, but on the face of it, this doesn't seem to be obviously salvageable.
It's not a pot of gold.
There's not money. There's not money. Certainly not in this. But they're I mean, they don't. Again, your security guy and probably Koleesh are probably keeping an eye on them. But they see you kind of running around and again activating this equipment, and they're keeping back, but they're paying they're watching what you're doing. Right. So you're, after some time, and again with Giara's input and Turin's modifications, You managed to get some sort of you get a basic translation of this, the Iconian glyphs, and again, it takes you a little while. And with Osterhagen, particularly Osterhagen, and as I say, Giara with her archaeological knowledge, which is coming to you more freely now because you've sort of brought those memories back.
Yeah.
She's a bit more, she's able to access them a bit more easily. You suspect that this Oracle device
Hello?
facilities are located, and it looks to you.
Yeah, sorry, Steve, you dropped out there for a second.
Oh, am I still on?
No,
Yes,
yeah.
I can hear you now, but there's a gap.
You
okay.
went, you suspect, and then it just went click and quiet.
So maybe I lent on my mute button here, but
just a quick recap.
You suspect, well, all I was going to say was you suspect that this map is showing you that the locations of similar devices to this Oracle, and you can see that there are, having adjusted the map for Stardrift and so on, you can see locations throughout the Shackleton Expanse, which seem to be tied up with where other caches of the Tilikal's physical bodies have been stored. So you remember you've come across a couple of instances where you remember basically the Tilikal went off to this pocket universe and they left their bodies in stasis being guarded by those what were they called? Assessors, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So this map seems to be showing you the locations of where these bodies. So you can see some of the places you've been to, and there are other locations that you haven't been to. But this seems to suggest that the Iconians were in some way integrated with this Tilikal network.
Okay, here's a thing. I'm going to look at Tallinn, and I'll say to it.
Tallinn. Sorry, yeah, go on. Go on.
The Vulcan. I say, when you think of the Tilikal, do you get any? I wouldn't say aggression, but would you get any sort of like negative feelings towards them? Because I'm wondering whether the Tilikal. So, if I remember rightly, it was when we went into their pocket universe. It was the impression was that they'd been sent there against their will, and they'd been. It was almost as if they were put into prison. And I'm just what. Yeah. Say again.
Sorry, no, go on, carry on.
And I'm just wondering whether it was the Iconians who did it, because.
Yes, so she listens to you and she says.
That's why I'm saying, does she get any? She's obviously getting a voice from the Oracle. She's obviously getting feelings from the Oracle. Is there any negative feelings towards, or negative feelings towards the Tilikali?
I suspect that the Iconians. I feel that the Iconians saw the Tilikal as a potential threat to the galaxy. This map it suggests to me that the Iconians had determined the location of the Tilikal's caches, and the Iconians were concerned that the Tilikal's removal from this physical plane could have harmful effects. And they were concerned that what could happen if the Tilikal lost control of their technology somehow. So I feel that this network was devised as a means of breaking the connection between the Tilikal's pocket universe and our own. And it was always my feeling is that the Iconians always intended to assist the Tilikal with proper integration back into their physical form, but as we know, the Iconians faced their own issues, and that civilization disappeared for reasons that are unclear to me. But I suspect this is why the Tilikal are still in the pocket universe. I feel that the Iconian technology went dormant once the Iconians disappeared, and as such, this equipment has been dormant since then. It's clear to me, however, that this oracle, the oracle that we've discovered here, has a means of travelling at random throughout time and space, and I feel that its last appearance was in 2269, which is when we encountered it on the USS Lexington. But it is possible that this device may jump away again at any point. So I these are all impressions. These are all, I don't know where these thoughts are coming from. This is not coming to me in words. This is coming to me in feelings. It's almost as if the oracle has imparted this information to me, and it's only coming back to my memory now. Right. Anyway, on that point, guys, it's 10 o'clock now, so I think we might leave it there for tonight. There's a lot of information there to take on board. So to summarise, you have discovered an Iconian oracle, which is what this device is that Turin encountered. And it seems as if the extinct Iconian civilization had set up a safety valve as a means of preventing the Tilical from basically going nuts because they had decided to go off to this other dimension, and apparently had intended to bring or to assist the Tilical in kind of reintegrating safely, but due to their own disappearance, obviously that technology of theirs was lost, and so any means that the Tilical had at that point to come back was taken away. But certainly the implication is that if you are able to figure out this technology more, you may actually be able to bring the Tilical back from the other dimension, and hopefully bring them back safely. So I'll leave that thought with you. Has anyone else got anything else they'd like to add before we wrap up?
No, thank you very much.
Like you said, lots of good.
I mean, the thing is, do we want to bring them back? That's the thing.
Well, that's a question to consider before next time. So,
yeah.
Thanks again, everybody. Thanks very much for tonight. I know we didn't take a break, so we went through a good bit of time there. So thanks again. And that's it for this episode of Star Trek Adventures, Starship Vigilant, and I will see you next time.
Thanks a lot, Steve.
Cheers, guys. Good night.
Cheers. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to this episode of Starship Vigilant. Kaz was played by Mike, Osterhagen was played by Kevin, Koleesh was played by Kerrin, Prux was played by Sarah Jane, and Davis was played by Alex. Our theme music is Fanfare for Space by Kevin MacLeod. See you next time.